How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Calcio Corner. A bit of a different look for this week's episode. Only me, as Seb's out of the city, so it's a little more difficult to make this week's episode. So in this one, I'll be looking at more of a tactical side of the game. I'll be looking at how I think Chelsea should line up their attack with the options that they're linked to, who I think they should be looking at, especially with the new owner and especially with how much money they could be bringing in to the club with the players that they're looking at, like some Neymar, Dembele, etc., who I think should be filling out that front three and how it'll work with Tuchel's system in the 3-4-3 that they're already currently playing. All right, so for Chelsea this season, they weren't a horrible side, obviously. Third in the league this season, quarterfinals of the Champions League, out to Real Madrid. But something just felt like almost there, but they can't get across the line. And the gap between them, City and Liverpool, was just massive. And I felt this season their attacking play got a bit static at times, not creating enough chances. Obviously, me and Seb have talked about on this channel the lack of impact from Mount at times, especially in the Carabao Cup final. But I think that's one of their biggest issues. Their attacking play this season seemed to be a bit static, and they lack that killer edge in the final third, which is something Thomas Tuchel can't really teach. Final third play in football is very organic. It's very dependent on the player. It's up to them, their creativity, what they see on the pitch. Tuchel, I think, has an amazing system for the players they have. It suits many of their strengths, and it's the reason they won the Champions League. A very structured system, and it got them past City because they're well drilled defensively. The way they attack is everyone's in really, really good space, and they're a very fluid team the way they attack when they're at their best. But when they get to that final third where they need a bit more, that's where they lack. And I think that's kind of what killed them this season, and is the reason why they have to be looking at other options in attack. This season, they were the fourth in big chances created with only 72 for a top three team. Could be a bit better. Third in expected goals, 25 behind City and 26 behind Liverpool. It has to be a lot better, and it comes down to who's behind the strikers. And Chelsea, they need a bit more in behind. They need a bit more creativity. That's where they really lacked, and especially Chelsea had so many players this season in attack. There was never really continuity. They could never really find the front three, which was their best. If you would ask Thomas Tuchel this season, what's your best front three? There's always a bit of hesitation. Is it Havertz, Mount, Pulisic off the right? Is Mount on the right, Pulisic off the left? Is Hudson-Odoi in there? Is Werner in there? Is Havertz even starting? Is it Pulisic or Werner up top? Sorry. So there was never really a consistent front three. They had the likes of Mount, Werner, Havertz, Ziyech, Barkley, Odoi, Pulisic, all in attack this season, and I'm probably missing a few. With that many options, you can never really find continuity. You can never really find a consistent front three which can work. And especially for a team like Chelsea, who's trying to close the gap with City and Liverpool, you need to find the consistent front three, because those two teams, in an important game who the three they're going to. With Chelsea, it's kind of up in the air, which it can be a good and bad thing. It can be good because, as an opposing manager, you don't know who you're up against. But again, it doesn't really breed success in the long run because the front three can never really form good chemistry when they're constantly being chopped and changed, which is not down to Tuchel. It's simply down to the underperformance of each player. With that being said, the players I would look to target, especially for Thomas Tuchel's team, which already looks like one is in the door with Raheem Sterling, which I will touch on, they have to look for players with technical security and can kind of fit a free roam role in the final third, because that's what he kind of looked to do this season. In his first season with the club, in that COVID season, I think he kind of kept the shackles on the players, kept them more restricted, because he wanted, as he would say, wanted to keep a team he wanted to have a team that others would fear. One of his famous quotes when he first came to the club. And I think he kind of kept to his word. They were very, not really reserved, but everyone was kind of automated what they were going to do. I think this season there was a lot more free roam, and then I think you kind of got to see the flaws in some of the players in this type of system, which can be a good or bad thing. I guess now Chelsea can kind of move forward and look to see what Tuchel actually needs, because especially at Dortmund, he kind of revolutionized. He was a very modern coach, and I think he wants to do the same at Chelsea, but he obviously needs the players. It's not as easy as just picking whoever's there. You need the certain players that will fit his style of play. With that being said, technical security and, like I said, being able to handle yourself in a free roam role in the final third, I think, are the two main attributes that Tuchel has to look at when analyzing and evaluating a player to fit his system, especially that they are a good possession-based team, well over 60% of the ball this season. But you want to be up there with City and Liverpool. You have to, your best form of defense has to be attack. You have to keep the ball, and that's how you're going to keep them out, essentially, because having the ball most of the game, you'll struggle. The other team will struggle to break you down, trying to get it back. And that's why technical security is so important, and having that balance is also very important, which Sterling will help with. So I'll touch on Sterling now. I, at first, was a bit unsure about this signing. I wasn't sure how he would fit into this system for Chelsea, but he's a very direct player, which they don't really have at the club. Someone who interprets space very, very well. And he'll probably start on the right, but he's always looking to cut in, again, free roam role. But again, the way he can attack space is something Chelsea don't really have. And they don't really have another winger at the club who scored 10 plus goals in a Premier League season, which he did at City. He does miss a lot of chances, but I think just his movement and the space he will get into, I think Tuchel again will find him scoring 10 plus goals in a Premier League season. I think it's not a bad signing. I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be. I think it's a really smart signing, and I think it'll fit the way they want to attack, and it'll have create balance on both sides. Now, here's the big one for the left. I don't personally start Mason Mount. I know a lot of Chelsea fans love him, but I think in this sort of system, like I said, technical security, I would look at bringing in Joao Felix from Atletico Madrid. It's a big one. Has he lived up to the price tag? You know, stats-wise, people would say no. But again, playing in a system like that, he plays in a two up front with Simeone at Atletico. It's not the greatest system for an attacking player like that to show his creativity. Is very, very restricted. And I think at Chelsea he could actually flourish in a team which has the ball a lot, will allow him to do his own thing. He can drift into different pockets. You know, if you look at his heat map this season, he'll start out wide, he'll come drift inside in those half spaces where he really thrives. And I think if he made the move to the Prem, I think he would do really, really well. He would really fit this Chelsea team. Now it's how much money would it cost? They bought him for 120. You know, they're going to take a loss on him for sure, but I think this could be a move that Chelsea could really, really take advantage of, and I think it'll fit the balance of that front three well. Joao Felix, who lakes the ball to feet and take on his man, with Sterling on the opposite side, who can run into space, attack space really well, an traditional inside forward, as it's known now, who will score you the goals. Not as great technically, still very good, but a goal-scoring winger. I think there's really good balance there, especially with the way Havertz can move across the front three, which I will show in a second. This front three can have a lot of potential to be a really good one, again, if it gets followed through. Obviously, Todd Bowley, Chelsea owner, has looked at many different options. They've been linked with Rafinha, who looked like they were bringing in just a week ago. Dybala, sort of. Neymar was kind of like an outside one. Dembele. There's been a lot of options of players they could bring in, and they all kind of seem to fit into that same profile. Very technical players, good technical security, and can operate in a lot of different roles in the attacking front three. A lot of different pockets they can operate into. So it looks like that's the area Tuchel wants to have in a player, which is a really interesting one, especially because they didn't have much of that in the club. And I think that Joao Felix can be a really, really good player in that front three. And I'll show that right now how it could kind of work with what Chelsea are going for. So here we are. Here's how I would line up Chelsea. Probably move this around a little bit. But this is probably how I would line up Chelsea in an attacking sense. Now, obviously, they're Chilwell / Kostic. That's another thing that I want to bring up. I feel like Chelsea need a more direct left wing back, similar to Reece James, who can provide a lot going forward. And that's what the Bundesliga really like to produce. We saw Chelsea linked to Perisic, obviously went to rival Spurs, but Kostic for me could be a really, really good player, so direct. And in terms of an attacking sense, with a team that has the ball a lot like Chelsea, someone like Kostic who can deliver that final ball so consistently, he's incredible at crossing with his left foot, I think is a much bigger upgrade than Chilwell provides in that area. I think Chilwell's probably better defensively, but I think Kostic, for what he provides going forward, is a superior player, especially if Chelsea are going to dominate the ball like they should, especially with this midfield pivot of Jorginho and Kovacic. The defense here, I literally have no idea who Chelsea's going to get. They've been linked to every center back in world football, it seems like, after Christensen and Rudiger left. So I have no idea what they're going to do. The only guy that I know is going to start match day 1 is Thiago Silva, but that leaves 2 players available. So yeah, back to the attack here. Sterling could be an interesting one because I still think his best position would be on the touchline, which would then force Reece James to play inverted, which can be very interesting because Reece James is really good coming inside to passes, drilling them back across goal or crossing to oncoming runners. But with the way Sterling can attack space going from out to in, I think Reece James can flourish in that position. We've seen Trent do it so well, and I think this would just be another layer of Reece's game that he can add on top, being able to play inverted as well, like many modern fullbacks have. So far in world football, we've seen Cancelo, and we've seen even Angelino for Leipzig. We've seen Trent, obviously, for Liverpool. It's very common now to have inverted fullbacks. So I think Reece can play in that role pretty well and give the team really good balance, especially on the counter-attacking sense. But yeah, Sterling likes to make these runs in here, can make out to in, making some really good runs, which is the reason why he's always scoring 10 plus goals a season, always there when he needs to be. Even if he misses a lot of chances, he creates a lot for himself as well and the team. Havertz moves across this front 3 really well, which can then once again open up space for João Felix, open up space for Sterling to attack, and is why Havertz is really pivotal for Chelsea in my opinion. Just the way he can move across the front 3, receive it in different areas. He's so strong technically. He's really got a really refined game technically in my opinion, where he can operate in a lot of different areas. He's such a flexible attacker, and that's what makes him such a valuable player. As we've seen, maybe his goal output isn't the best, but in a possession team, the fact that he can play in different areas, he's comfortable in different areas, makes him such a valuable piece for Tuchel's side. As he can drop in here, opening up space similar to what Firmino could do, but obviously I think he'll be a lot stronger attacker in terms of finishing than Firmino. But Chelsea, again, they like to play with a very narrow attack, having players come inside, which is the reason why Reece James has such a high goal output, is because they'll knock it around here, and then these wing backs are always open. The far side is always open to attack, and then they have runners coming in. João Felix is important on the other hand because he can operate in this sort of area. He can get the ball to feet, link up well with the attacker, ongoing runners. He's so strong at taking people on 1v1, and I just think he has such a good understanding of players around him, where someone like Havertz, who's very intelligent, he can bounce off him really, really well. I think it's perfect for João Felix for Chelsea. And it's a complete opposite to Sterling, where Sterling likes the ball in behind, Felix likes it to feet. I think it creates a really good balance in attack where you have different types of players doing different things. And I just think it would make Chelsea a very tough team to defend against. Obviously, you have Jorginho and Kovacic that are so good at retaining the ball, recycling the ball, and so hard to press against. You have very high output wing backs who stay very, very high and are really good at getting crosses into the box, into dangerous areas. And you have a front 3 that all do different types of things. Havertz can move across the front 3 very well. Sterling can make these sorts of runs in behind very well. And João Felix, unbelievably technically gifted when he gets the ball to feet on the turn. And I think, I'm not going to say like Hazard, but a type of player who's so good taking his man on 1v1, like Hazard when he was at Chelsea. I'm not going to say they're going to be alike if João Felix did come to Chelsea, but they're missing that type of player who's just so dynamic 1v1. They haven't had that player since Hazard left, and it's been a few seasons since. So I think this could be how Chelsea would line up. I think keeping that 3 at the back shape, I think fits everyone really well. It's a settled formation. I know they've been talking about going to a 4-3-3, but I think this 3-4-3 fits a lot of pieces really nicely. That'll be the end of this week's episode. Hope you guys enjoy. A bit of a different one. Solo mission on this one. A little more in-depth, tactical side. Seb will be back for the next episode. I will assure you that. But leave any more suggestions for videos. Leave any more comments on this one. And how you think Chelsea will line up. Any other things maybe I missed in terms of the tactical side for Chelsea down below. And thanks for watching, guys. See ya.